Hello and welcome, our dear students in the third stage, Department of English, College of Arts, University of Ambar. Hello and welcome, and glad to send another lecture for you. As you remember, in the last lecture, we talked about the prescriptive approach for language. Okay, and we said that these are views of some scholars for the proper use of the language, and these are one of those an example or two examples of those rules that people should, according to the views, people should or must follow those rules. Must follow those rules. You must not, you see, you must not split an infinitive. And we say that these or those rules are based on Latin and Greek. Why? Because English is heavily affected by Latin and Greek views of grammar. And we say that those scholars would regard those who violate those rules as using the English language in a false way, in a wrong way. Okay, so we have here another section, Captain Kirks infinitive. Okay, what's Captain Kirk? Captain Kirk, actually, it is one of the characters in a series of a televised series that is labeled Star Trek. Okay, مسلسل تلفزيوني. And in this televised series, okay, Captain Kirk tries to draw the attention of the listeners to something well known in English that oppose this rule. You must not split an infinitive. So Captain Kirk starts using to boldly go. And actually, according to the prescriptive rules, this is something wrong. According to the prescriptive rules, okay, of grammar, this phrase is wrong. To boldly go. So there's something that splits the infinitive. Okay, the usual infinitive in English should be to go. That is to plus the base form of the verb. But that Captain Kirk starts his program or many series of his program, televised series, using this phrase to boldly go, so as to draw the attention of the listeners that it is possible for speakers to split the infinitive. That is something used in English. And actually, he continues using this phrase throughout this televised program, so that people would accept, or when they listen to such phrase, they wouldn't think that this is something wrong in English. It is something acceptable in English to go boldly or boldly to go. Okay, these two phrases are according to the prescriptive views. Okay, there's no cut or no space, no another word inserted in the structure of the infinitive. To go and to go. Okay, and the adverb may precedes or follows the infinitive. This is according to the prescriptive view, but according to the use of English by people, this structure, to boldly go, is acceptable. And this was a change in the views of scholars towards grammar by looking at the English language according to the use of the people and not the views of the Latin or Greek. This is the main idea of this section. So we have here some examples of this use according to the English people, and it is acceptable. So we can see to boldly go. There's a split in the infinitive here. Or to solemnly swear. So swear is a verb, to is a preposition. So, and there's an adverb that split the infinitive. To never ever say goodbye. So according to the prescriptive rules, this is not acceptable, but people in English use such phrases, and this is so according to those views, people should look at how people use the English language and not according to how the other languages like Latin or Greek use the such structures. So this is the main idea of this section. So we move to another section, that is the descriptive approach of grammar. The descriptive approach of grammar, and according, yes, descriptive. So we are describing the language as it is used by people, but not according to how or according to the rules of other languages like Latin or Greek. So we have some rules that, yes, it goes along with the rules of grammar in English. Some rules in Latin or Greek, okay, are applicable to the English grammar, but other rules are not. So maybe Greek and Latin are applicable to Italian and Spanish, but it's not applicable all the time to English. So what they should do, those views, okay, they describe the language as it is used by people and not according to the views of other languages like Greek and Latin. So it is a movement in a grammar description, that is to leave the views of other languages and to describe the how people use the language. So it is a movement against using or applying the rules of other languages like Greek and Latin on English. Yes, so it is a view, it's an approach of a grammar, okay, to do describe how people use the language and not according to the use of the language of the Greek and Latin languages. And these are this approach, descriptive, has adopted some practical steps to describe the language. And one of those practical steps is the structural analysis. The structural analysis. And as we can see here in the structural analysis, okay, the main idea of the structural analysis, we have got an acceptable sentence or acceptable sentences in English, and we will try to see what are the components of those sentences, acceptable sentences in English according to the use of the people. Okay, so we have here some examples, and okay, yes, it's like yes, we have this acceptable, for example, this acceptable sentence in English, and we leave a space here for some other constituents, and the constituent that fill this blank and the sentence is proper and acceptable. So we can say that this those constituents are similar. Those constituents are similar category. They are of the similar category. They are similar of the they fall in the same category. So for example here, the blank makes a lot of noise. So when we fill this blank with some words, so those words should be similar or of the same category in English grammar, of the same English category of the English grammar. I heard a blank yesterday. So for example, in those two blanks, I can fill those two blanks with car. So I can say the car makes a lot of noise. The child makes a lot of noise. The donkey makes a lot of noise. The dog makes a lot of noise. The radio makes a lot of noise. And the same thing applies to the second sentence. I heard a car yesterday. I heard a child yesterday. I heard a donkey yesterday. I heard a dog yesterday, and I heard a radio yesterday. So according to the structural analysis, these words fall on the same category, grammatical category. They are the same grammatical category. But is this applicable all the time? So these are nouns. So what about other nouns? For example, can I say the Kathy? Kathy is a noun, a proper noun of a person. So can I say the Kathy makes a lot of noise? Actually, no, we cannot say the Kathy makes a lot of noise. though it is a noun in English. These are nouns in English. Why Kathy is not acceptable and those words are acceptable? Or for example, the dog. The dog. I cannot see the dog here. The dog makes a lot of noise. So we have to find another solution for this problem. So not any noun can fill this blank. Not any noun can fill this blank. So we have to find another solution for this. What is this solution? Okay, so instead of saying the makes a lot of noise, I would delete the so that the rule will be acceptable. The rule would be acceptable. I heard a, so I delete a here so that I can put as much as nouns as possible in this blank so that I can make an acceptable rule or form or frame. They call these frames. Okay. So for example here I can say it, or the big dog. So I can say it, the big dog, an old car makes a lot of noise, Annie DeFranco makes a lot of noise. All these fit the test frames. Okay, underline this please. Test, these are, they call them test, these are test frames. Such sentences are test frames. So what are those items? They are noun phrases. Okay, noun phrases. Though it is a pronoun, but it is a noun phrase in the grammatical description. So such a step is a movement against the rules of Latin that is applied or imposed on the English language. So for example here, observing that it fits in the I heard it yesterday, so I can say I heard it yesterday, fits in the second set of test frames and not in the first set. The it, I cannot say the it, this as the it I cannot say, but it and it here are applicable, so I can say that this is a test frame in English. So I can fill those two blanks with the noun phrase. Okay, and this is again is the rule of okay, by Latin language. So now we try to improve this rule. So instead of saying for pronouns words used in the place of nouns, so I can say now they are replaced, or they can be used instead of noun phrases, not just nouns. So now I improved the old Latin rule so that it can fit all the items that can fill those two blanks. So this is the main idea. It is okay, a movement against the prescriptive or the old-fashioned rules that is brought by the Latin and Greek languages. So we move to another movement against the prescriptive approach. This is also okay, one of the steps taken to oppose or to object the prescriptive rules of some scholars. So here, constituent analysis. Constituent analysis, which means that to group the items in certain groups so that we can understand. It is with the same idea of the test frames, but here we are just changing the strategy by using or grouping those items that fall in the same category in some groups, so that the listener or the speaker or the reader would understand what is the grammatical category of this group or that group. Okay, and here it is a technique employed in this approach designed to show how small constituents or components in sentences go together to form a larger constituents. What makes this sentence acceptable in English? This sentence is acceptable in English. Why it is acceptable in English? What makes it acceptable in English? How are those constituents are grouped together or connected together in a certain way that makes this sentence acceptable in English? So we'll try to look at the constituents or the components of this sentence, how they are connected, so that we could frame a rule that could be followed by the learners of English, including native speakers. So we have this sentence here. An old man brought a shotgun to the wedding. Okay. So these are 9 constituents, how they are connected and how they went together at the phrase level. So as we can see here, the sentence is composed of phrases. For example, here we have an old man, a shotgun, the wedding. These are noun phrases. We have to the wedding, which is a prepositional phrase. To the wedding is a prepositional phrase. And brought the shotgun, this is the verb. So this is a verb phrase. So we can group these constituents in this way. This is one possible way of grouping those constituents. And actually these are levels. Okay, these are levels. You see, levels. So using this kind of diagram, we can determine the type of forms that can be substituted. So you can do what? You can substitute, you can change, you can put similar items at the same position. You can put similar items at the same position as seen here. Okay, so this is the position of noun, this is a position of the verb or verb phrase, and this is this is a prepositional phrase. So this is a level, this is a position that can be filled by some other items. So as we can see here, the other diagram that is similar to this diagram, but we can see the items that can fill the same level. For example, the old man, or Gwyn, or I can fill the same position, or the woman can fill the same position. Here we have the verb brought, and we can fill similar items, similar verbs: brought, kept, took, so. A shotgun, a large snake, Kingston, him. Okay, actually this is the position of object. And here, for example, here we have an adverb here, and here it can fill, an adverb can fill the, actually these are prepositional phrases, but it can be filled also by an adverb. It can be filled by an adverb. So I can say an old man brought a shotgun, or brought a large snake, or brought him to the wedding, or in the cage, or with her, or recently. Okay, I can use one of those. So this is actually the same idea with, okay, trying to find some rules that are acceptable according to the use of the people, So this is what's meant by constituent analysis. So I can find some rules by grouping those items so that I can fill other items of the same group at the same level. So also I can say the woman kept a large snake recently, or the woman kept a large snake with her, also acceptable. So you see, this gives the idea that this is a frame or a rule that can be followed in composing some sentences in English, and it is acceptable, and it's a proper use of English, or acceptable use in English. Labeled and bracketed sentences, and actually this is another alternative way of describing. This is another way of describing sentences in English. Describing. So instead of prescribing rules, we are describing the English language as it is used by people. So we use those brackets. We use those square brackets. You see, we have big brackets and we have small brackets. This is according to the constituents. You can see we have very small brackets. For example, the dog loved the girl. What is the constituents or how can we label those items? How can we label those items in the grammatical description? I can use those abbreviated forms. I can use those abbreviated forms. So art for article, N for noun, NP for noun phrase, V for verb, VP for verb phrase, okay, S for sentence. So this sentence can be labeled as follows. This sentence, the dog loved the girl, can be labeled as follows. So we have a sentence, this is the biggest bracket, okay, and then we have somehow smaller brackets. This is a noun phrase, this is a noun phrase, okay. So a sentence is composed of a noun phrase and the verb phrase. A sentence, I can say a sentence is composed of a noun phrase and the verb phrase. You have got those two big brackets. And then the noun phrase is composed of article plus noun. Article plus noun. The verb phrase is composed of a verb plus a complement. And this complement can be a noun phrase, it could be an adjective, it could be an adverb. So here the verb phrase is composed of main verb plus a noun phrase, that is the girl, that is. So as you can see here, this is called hierarchical, again, hierarchical organization. It's like a pyramid, okay, it's like a pyramid, okay. We have upper constituents and lower constituents, upper constituents and lower constituents. So in hierarchy, okay, we have got the bigger constituent, the bigger label is the sentence, and we have okay, lower constituents, that is noun phrase, verb phrase, and then we look at the components or the constituents of this hierarchy. So as you can see, noun phrase is higher than and contains the noun. We can also see that the sentence contains a verb phrase, yes, which contains the verb, and other noun phrase. Okay, yes, in the next chapter, that is syntax, okay, we'll go deep into what they call it, the deep structure of those noun phrases, and we will have a look at those constituents and why they are connected in a more appropriate way in English. And actually here we have an example. That is, it's not relevant to our study. It's not relevant to our study, so we'll skip this section. We'll skip this section. I want you to understand that what we have discussed today is how the descriptive approach try to describe the language. So these are some ways of describing the language as it is used. Okay, again, this is very important. Describing the language as it is used by the English people, and not according to the opinions or the views of some scholars that is based on Latin and Greek. So all these what we have discussed today in this lecture is a way of describing. So this is how to describe the language. Those are some ways of describing the language as it is used by people not according to the views taken from Greek and Latin. Okay, these are ways of describing the language as it is used by people. Okay, by this we'll end our lecture, and actually we end this chapter, that is the study of grammar, and inshallah in the next chapter we'll have a look at what's called a syntax in the study of language. Syntax in the study of language. Until that time, see you inshallah, and inshallah we ask Allah that He may that He may keeps you safe and sound, you and your families, and inshallah we hope that we meet in our university, in our classroom, as soon as possible. Thank you very much indeed for your listening. See you inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum.